Okay, and this person is saying, let's say I experience open contact 3 to 6 years from now. Will I be able to learn specialty skills from members of the Interstellar Alliance, for example, as a different form of higher education? How might one then be able to use those skills on Earth?
Well, yes, of course, that's going to be possible. And of course, you will be learning things that obviously will be applicable to Earth society. So when you choose a subject, then you will understand how it is applicable on Earth.
Okay, and this person is saying they would like to know, how does one know the difference between what the higher mind is advising versus what the physical mind is thinking? Basically, how do we distinguish the voices in our head and know which path to follow?
Well, again, the higher mind doesn't usually come as a voice in your head, although it can. It's more about the idea of, again, seeing the reflection in a situation, in a circumstance, in an opportunity that is filled with excitement, curiosity, attractiveness, and passion. That's the way that the higher mind communicates with the physical mind. You translate its messages into the sensation called passion, curiosity, excitement, attraction. It's different than the idea of what the physical mind thinks about it. That's a reflective reaction. Because again, thinking and thought patterns come from the beliefs in the physical mind. If you let yourself feel in your heart what it is you are truly excited about being and doing, that is more representative of a communication from the higher mind, as opposed to the idea of the thinking thought patterns that the physical mind exhibits about what the higher mind has sent it.
Okay, and this person is saying, to be honest, I'm not sure that the idea of open contact will really manifest in my reality because I have never particularly been interested in UFOs or aliens. However, since embarking on a spiritual path as a natural progression of life events, I came across your material, and some of what you say really resonates with me, or as you put it, strikes a chord. I wanted to ask if you represent a certain high vibration within me that has manifested you in my reality, or in other words, if you're an aspect of my multidimensionality that we share, regardless of the ideas of open contact UFOs or aliens.
Yes, because again, first and foremost, we are functioning as a reflection of your own higher mind, of your own soul. That doesn't require the idea of extraterrestrial contact to take advantage of. That's first and foremost. It can lead more easily to the idea of open contact to allow your own physical mind to connect more strongly with your higher mind, your soul. But that's the first step, is a representation of your own higher mind. That's how we function. Now, the fact that you're asking the question of an extraterrestrial can be an indication that it is a high probability that this will lead to some form of contact. But no, it doesn't have to. The most important thing is that it helps you understand how to communicate with your own higher mind to interact with us.
And how would you compare the idea of having an interdimensional communication or encounter with another being versus ET contact?
Well, again, it's not always important to tell the difference if the information services you in a way, helps you in a way. Sometimes, when you become sensitive enough, you might be able to feel the difference in vibration, and you can assign that particular feeling to an extra dimensional or extraterrestrial or spirit guide or something like that. But it's not always important to make that distinction if the information itself is what's more important to focus on.
So the whole idea of, as we raise our vibration, ET contact becomes a side effect in a sense.
Yes.
That because now you have access to more of things in existence.
Yes, let me give you a very simplistic example. Let's say someone is living in your United States and they decide they're going to move to France. Well, of course, once they move to France, they have surrounded themselves with more opportunities to interact with French things. It's a side effect of the move of where it is they chose to move. So when you raise your vibration, it's like moving to another country. And the things that are relevant for experiencing in that country happen as the natural side effects because those are the things that happen in that country. So certain things happen in higher frequency realities than happen in other frequency realities. You will experience all the things that are relevant for that higher frequency reality when you decide to move there.
And this person is saying they're new to joining the social experiment, and would you recommend that we start doing steps 1 through 4 all at the same time, or should we pace ourselves using the same timing in which you originally presented the steps, starting with step 1 and then adding on a step per month?
It's completely up to you. Either can work.
And there are some other Sasani channels who are also speaking of the Interstellar Alliance and a version of the steps which you are giving us. And I will be following your instructions, but why would they be telling us something a bit different?
Different people need to hear things in different ways and may need to take slightly different steps or different versions of the steps because it fits their belief system a little bit differently. So we will give you all the choices, multidimensional, holographically, all the different ways in which the steps can be done based on the different belief systems, the different styles of approach, the different way you absorb information, the different ways you interpret things based on your belief systems and your life experiences. So sometimes a step has to be altered slightly for this belief system and cultural experience. Sometimes it has to be altered slightly for this different belief system and cultural experience. Essentially, they'll all get you to the same basic place.
Okay. And is there anything else you would like to add as far as the social experiment and those ideas as we end our question session?
The next step will be given in the next transmission, step 5. We will talk about it in the next transmission. It will be about the idea of opening up to volunteering and being of service in that particular way to your society. We thank you. Yes, we thank you. And now allow yourselves to prepare to focus on the idea of the soul's journey, the soul cycle. Become relaxed and continue to receive this information in the way that works best for you. And now, we would like to invite everyone to become relaxed, to breathe deeply and easily, to add whatever sounds or lights you feel should accompany the idea of the upcoming meditation, or simply sit in silence if you prefer. Eyes open or eyes closed, but allow yourselves to imagine in a relaxed way the idea we have described of the sphere of light that you are as a soul. And imagine it with vibrations that are condensing a part of itself down and down and down into the center of its being, into this little crystalline seed that represents the physical persona, the physical experience, the physical reality, that this seed then uses those vibrations to project onto the inner surface of the soul sphere as a screen to make that reality seem to be outside of itself when in fact it's within. But that projection happens because of the focus, because of the concentration, because of the desire to have a space-time linear physical experience. Then the soul functions like a screen wrapped around that central crystal to allow the inside of that sphere to function as the screen for a projection of a reality reflection that is happening and coming from the experience of that little crystalline seed within the soul. Now imagine that crystalline seed expanding back out again as it expands its awareness and becomes aware of how to use those vibrations to connect to all the parallel realities and other dimensions and the higher mind soul of itself. And imagine it contracting and expanding like the soul is breathing the physical being into existence, into life, and then allowing it to expand back out to its soul self, and again breathing it out, breathing it in, breathing it out, breathing it in. The soul contracting within itself and expanding within itself, never diminishing as a sphere of light. The sphere of light itself does not contract. The contraction happens within it. It always remains there as the higher mind for the connection of the crystalline seed that is the physical personality. But you can use the vibrations as a form of communication between the soul, bouncing back and forth between the bigger sphere and the smaller sphere, the bigger sphere and the smaller sphere, and allowing the smaller sphere to expand out to the bigger sphere and contract back to the smaller sphere and be different, and expand back to the bigger sphere and contract to the smaller sphere and be different, and contract and contract and contract and expand and expand and expand, and it contracts again and again and again and again and again. And this is the mechanism, billions of times per second, of how you're shifting through different versions of physical reality, expanding and contracting within the soul, billions and billions and billions and billions and billions of times per second. Faster and faster and faster, flickering and flickering and flickering, always being different when you contract into that crystalline seed. Different, 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 new, 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 moving forward, expanding, 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 but never quite the same contraction. A little bit more expanded each time, to have a different navigation into a different version of Earth as you navigate to ones that are more representative of what you prefer to experience. Being a more expanded being closer to the idea of what you are as a soul in every new experience of your contraction, never contracting quite as far, to be a more expanded fourth density being, to become in your evolution the idea of a quasi-physical being that has the traits and qualities of physical reality and spirit, a cross between the physical and astral forms, to be connected to the idea of your soul as the higher mind and to express it through the expanded version of your being within the center of that soul that contracts but never quite as far as it used to allow that lesser contraction, that more expanded version, to take advantage of the vibrations in the soul and to express them in your life, to allow yourself to experience that joy, that unconditional, unbridled love and joy that is the ecstasy of existence itself, the ecstasy of source, your beingness, your truth, your vibration, your essence. Imagine that expansion and contraction, slowed down so you can perceive it, but knowing that even as you perceive the slow expansion and slow contraction, that it's going much faster at its natural pace to create the shifts that you experience, being a new being in the center every moment that is more and more expanded, a little bit closer to becoming the full soul, but remaining physical, so you can experience the beauty and joy and creativity and imagination of the fourth density physical reality that you are all evolving toward. Keep that vision in you. Know that's who you are and what you are, and that your natural state of spirit will continue to guide you as the higher mind, as you experience more expansion of your physical mind, to experience more that life has to offer in the totality of creation and existence that is relevant for your path and your journey in this physical experience you call life. Breathe it in, relax into it, and remember, you do not have a soul, you are a soul. Be the soul that you are, and let the personality expand back to the degree it needs to experience all that it can be in harmony with itself, in beauty, in love, in light. And welcome home. We thank you for allowing us to share this image, this vision, this powerful meditation of your soul with you in the soul cycle, this day of your time, within the time you are creating yourself to experience on this journey, on this path that you call you. For that's what it is. It is you. It is source and it is you. It is soul and it is you. It is life and it is you. Our unconditional love to you all. Avail. Good day.
Hi Bashar, Alicia here. I wanted to speak about an experience I had maybe 6 years ago relative to our time. And the experience is with Source itself, all that is. And I would describe it as very similar to the sun, but a white ball of energy. And I could imagine, I can still feel it almost being hit with, just fire. I felt like I was being burnt, but I knew it was unconditional love and acceptance. And I remember floating and, just telepathically speaking with Source. And not too long after that, I ended up just shutting the door, shutting off all from metaphysics, quantum mechanics, spirituality, and I just closed it off. And I want to understand why Source decided that would be the opportune moment for me to experience itself, and why, knowing that after experiencing, I would shut it off and completely close that door. And I want to understand what my purpose is, because I still am wanting to understand. And I feel like there's a block that is preventing me from doing so after already knowing and being exposed to a multitude of truths and itself.
Well, you were shown what you actually are, that you are source, you come from source. You are given the vibration to reach for through the challenges in your life. So you shut down the direct connection so that you could climb the ladder by going through and facing the challenges that would ultimately bring you back to being able to connect to that frequency again. But you were given the opportunity to know exactly what that frequency feels like, so that you have something to aim for and understand that that's where the challenges that you choose to transform in positive ways will ultimately take you if you keep transforming those challenges. Good day.
Thank you so much for this interaction, Bashar.
It is our passion and our pleasure.
So you've described both the physical body and the personality structure as being the prism through which our pure consciousness is filtered in order to create our physical reality experience.
Yes.
I was wondering, what is the difference then between the personality structure and the physical body?
Well, the personality structure is what determines what the physical body is going to be in terms of how it arranges its DNA components when it is laid out on the blueprint level. Does that make sense? Do you understand?
So the personality structure, the beliefs, thoughts, and emotions do that?
Yes, it's all woven into the structure of the genetics that will reinforce the belief system that is germane for that personality structure to have in order to face the challenges that the soul chose to face in that physical experience. So when the body is being formed, shall we say, when it's being patterned, when it is about to be born physically, the vibrations structure the DNA to structure the body to incorporate the belief systems within that genetic structure, to incorporate it within the personality structure, so that that body will express itself, that personality will express itself in the way that is necessary for it to face the challenges it chose to face for the soul's growth. Does that make sense?
Yes, to some degree it makes sense. I will need to absorb it a little more, but
All right.
so all of those, so it sounds like the beliefs part of the personality structure comes before anything else. Is
In the forming of the personality, yes, the belief systems have to be there. Now, there is some looseness to it at the beginning, and the looseness is crystallized and solidified over a brief period of time, over a few years, when the belief system is also willing to absorb belief systems from its surroundings, from its parents, its schooling, its society, so on and so forth, to complete the picture that that personality needs in order to face the challenges in the way it needs to face those challenges, to learn, to grow, and to have the experience it chose to have. So the genetics are arranged with some structure, but also arranged to allow for some belief systems from its environment to come in to complete the structure that it will then face as a physical persona growing up.
okay, and so that's almost set in stone after a certain age?
Yes, somewhere around 7 years of age, 9 years of age, it becomes more crystallized, and now you are on the momentum, you're on the path of experiencing the challenges you chose to experience for your soul's growth.
Okay, but we're still able to change our beliefs. We've been told that we can.
But that's part of the process of the soul growing, is to learn how to do that.
Okay.
That's what you set yourself up to do. I'm going to impose these particular belief systems that I will have the opportunity to change. It is that process of change that allows the soul to discover something new and to grow. So you set yourself up with things that ideally you will be able to change.
I see. Uh, Thank you.
Yes.
All right. The next question I have is about as above, so below.
Yes.
You say everything in physical reality has a spirit version of itself.
First. Yes.
Okay.
So in a sense, it's really more like anything in spirit has potentially a physical version if relevant. There are more things in spirit than there are on earth. As is in your text, there are more things in heaven than you imagine in your philosophy. So there are more things in spirit than you experience on earth, because not everything is relevant to experience in the physical way. But everything that is physical has a component in spirit first.
Okay. How would something like a disease that is in physical reality that we see the symptoms of, how would that look in spirit, for example?
As a pattern of energy that is, from your perspective, potentially discordant.
Okay, so there can be discordant things in spirit, anything.
Well, let me put it this way. It's like a blueprint. I'm going to have this experience of this disease, which is something that is representative of being out of balance with my core frequency. So, as a blueprint, you may see it as something that looks like it's slightly shifted off of the center core essential frequency in a way that would cause a discordant harmonic between the two, just to put it in energy terms.
Okay, makes sense. All right. Now I have some questions about the social experiment.
Yes.
Um, Now for the letter we sent out,
Yes.
it was signed the Interstellar Alliance Social Experiment Group,
Yes.
uh, and I'm a member of that. I've been doing the steps,
All
but
right.
I didn't consciously write the letter. I was just wondering who actually wrote it, and how did you use our consciousnesses in writing
In
my email
exactly
letter.
the same way that you are experiencing conversation with us now. We downloaded it to the channel, who then translated it into words on his computer.
Okay. Um, so it's a reflection of our collective higher mind, the
Always.
letter? Mhm. Okay. And that's, I guess, how all the social experiment steps were created as well.
Yes, but it's also a reflection of something that allows us to observe the reactions of individuals who choose to participate.
Now, what will happen if people want to embellish the ID cards or
The degree to which that might be done, even though we are suggesting that it may not necessarily be done, will again tell us something about the way people perceive things, how they approach things, how they interact with things. And that's part of the reason for this social experiment, is not only for you to utilize these things to your own effect and your own advantage, but for us to observe what happens when you do them, when you align with it, or when you do something different than we suggested.
okay. Um, on that same general theme, I sent a letter out to one of my senators, and he suggested that I call someone who works under him, who's in charge of the space aspect of his work, I guess, and to talk about this subject with him. And I felt
All right.
excited to do that, but then I thought maybe this is going out of the bounds of the social experiment since it was connected to the letter. Do you have any guidance on that?
You may have a conversation. It depends on what the subject is. But again, you can also turn them on to the idea of the origin of that letter and let them discover things for themselves. But it's all right to have a conversation about subjects that are similar to what is covered in the letter.
Okay.
All we are basically saying is you don't necessarily have to explain what the social experiment is to them, but you can certainly discuss subjects that are contained within the idea of the social experiment, like the existence of extraterrestrial beings and the desire for disclosure and things like that.
Okay, and I can refer them to bashar.org for the
If they
official.
wish to understand the actual parameters involved in the social experiment, yes, that you don't have to explain. They can find that out for themselves. But you can certainly have discussions about subjects that are peripheral to what the letter is about.
Okay. What does a white flower symbolize to the collective consciousness of the Interstellar Alliance?
The opening of consciousness to higher vibrations, to higher light.
Okay. All right.